Scott. Welcome to the Thought Room.
Hallie, it is so great to be here with you.
Yeah, this has been a few months in the making.
Mm-hmm.
I met you at our friend Cal Callahan's birthday party, and I was struck by your magnetism and your personability and your curiosity for life. And you asked really great questions. We talked for a while, I think, before maybe you even know that part of what I do is ask questions. And then I invited you at that point to be on the show and to talk about your mission and your life journey and what you're creating. So here we are on this momentous day, finally colliding again. And I'm very grateful.
So am I.
Yeah.
Yeah. That
So
was a lot of fun and probably the best birthday party I've ever been to.
it was ridiculously fun. They really know how to throw one. So yeah, that was epic. So what I love is I actually know very little about you. You know, a lot of times I know a ton about people that I have on the show. And so I'm really excited to get to know a little bit more about your story. I know a little bit about your background. So you're a chemical engineer, is that correct?
Yes.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about maybe some of the context, the background that might be helpful for people as they go on this journey with us, so that they can build a little bit of a rapport with you? And then if that naturally curtails into your own story, I'll let you go where your heart feels led to go.
Beautiful. Beautiful. Well, I really was always interested in nutrition, but like a lot of things that are like hard to do, I only did this because I had to.
Mm.
That's where the story starts. Is I was really close with my parents, and growing up, I was almost an only child. I had two sisters that were grown in school and college by the time I was coming along. So I was born to older parents, and I knew that I'd probably have to say goodbye to them sooner
Mm.
than rather than later. And when my mom's health started to really decline, again, we were super close. We were like peers almost.
Hmm.
And I felt compelled to help because in part she wasn't getting the help she deserved.
Mm-hmm.
And around that time, I was also having and starting to have having progressively worse like brain. You could call it brain fog,
Mm-hmm.
but it was at first it was disconcerting. Then it was kind of and frustrating, and then it was or frustrating, disconcerting, and then at some point scary.
How old were you at this point?
I was like 20, 22 to 25, like
So
in
you're
that range.
young and you're
Mm-hmm.
having
Yeah.
this progressively debilitating brain
Mm-hmm.
fog. What and what? How was that affecting you?
Well, I was finishing up the last part of chemical engineering, and because I pretty much had to learn math myself. I went to a school where I got all A's and was top of the class, but I really graduated not knowing much math, and then chemical engineering required a really deep understanding of at least calculus starting off, and so immediately I was playing catch up. So um, although I did well in school, it took a while to just catch up, and um, I it started to happen because probably like a lot of your listeners, I was interested in sports. I was interested just in the overarching idea of if you're listening to this now, you've probably been a lifelong learner or pursuer of greatness or pursuer of your unique potential.
Mm-hmm.
And that was always me. And I loved that. I was always willing to go hard. So, but what I think really led me to that point so soon was on the personal side was I'd pushed so hard in a lot of sports, played both ways in football and ran track and things, but it was really wrestling and then
Mm-hmm.
some jujitsu later, but mainly like 10 years of wrestling that just year round training. It seemed like, is what I put on myself, at least. And it was just sort of expected that I would, win state and do great things and like not lose. In part because my dad, his first career was, and this was me, not him. This is just what I put on myself. Probably to make him proud was, I don't lose.
Right.
And that doesn't come easily in terms of nutrient requirements, and we'll get into how this all connects.
Yeah.
But I was gassed, basically. By the time I did that, and then I was like, oh, now I'm going to prove that I'm worthy of love by going and doing what they say is the hardest 4-year degree, like chemical engineering, like minor in math and chemistry and physics and all this stuff. And okay, so I'm going to conquer that, And towards the end of it, I went to a doctor and got prescribed Vyvanse. Actually got a prescription for it. I mean, just like everyone else, I fully believe no one needs that drug. No one needs either Adderall, Vyvanse, anything like that. But the effects is that it's very chemically similar to cocaine. So if you're listening to this and you've done cocaine for years, it's really similar. And the effects on the body in terms of draining. So whether you worked your ass off in school or you partied your ass off in school, you probably ended up in a similar place.
Yeah.
Where you're up all night and you're drained, and you just kind of become a shell of yourself. And the reason that's so detrimental, all of those things, is because, and this is true for plant medicines too. Although I'm a huge fan, and I would not have started Upgraded without it.
Right.
Ayahuasca was a game changer for me. The MDMA was a game changer for me. All of them have been a game changer in some way. But they're like truly catalysts. Probably a conversation for another time, but
or later.
That
sounds really relevant. Actually, and I would love to hear about how those experiences informed your vision and changed your trajectory.
Sure. And it's something I've written a lot about too. And so if we partition that for later, perhaps, which I'm happy to get into at any point. I love talking about it. I think there's a lot of great lessons to be shared and learned and stuff. But
so at this point, let me just recap. You are in college. You have been in a state of chronic stress of your own accord through sports and a very rigorous degree. And now you're on a pharmaceutical that you just likened to cocaine. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. So things are starting to go a little sideways as I'm finishing my degree.
Right.
I remember, I've generally had a sort of contemplative, reserved personality. Although, like, at the same time, now I'll be the same person that'll start a dance party in the evening. It's like I love both of those things. But I remember just being, such an asshole to my girlfriend at the time and my parents, and going like, what is this? And it was just the drug. I got off of it and immediately it stopped.
Wow.
I was like, oh my God, it's terrible. So just, I say that share that sort of vulnerability because I feel like that was, one of the mistakes, one of the things I wish I could have back is that. And that, I mean, it changes your personality. And if you're caught with it outside of, basically you go to jail, and it's just as bad as having like methamphetamines on you or something. So anyway,
that's a serious drug.
It's a serious drug, and I'm just really, I don't want to harp on the fact too much. Like some people are just trying to get by, just like I was at the time. But what we'll talk about here in a bit is just all the options that are so much better than that. And when you get these foundational pieces correct, you don't need this, you don't think about it, and you can take a lot better things for you that are actually like brain multivitamins, nootropics, things that are a lot easier. Even like the piracetam's family are so much easier on the body, even though they can be hard, and they'll still increase your burn rate of all these minerals and things. So, excuse me, to kind of move it along there, I'm in the state, and I start to spend a lot of money on testing, and so I'm starting to work as an engineer, and I'm doing tests on me, on her, on my girlfriend at the time, her dad, and we're looking at deficiencies, and it's funny, like there's so many lights that came on all at once. And I was like, oh my God, after spending, I don't know, over 10 or 15 grand on testing in a year, I remember and learning all these tests and how to interpret and connect things, like really applying like the depth and I was used to focusing on like organic chemistry, physical chemistry, quantum physics, and the actual math of it and stuff. So I was like applying that same depth of thinking to all these functional medicine tests and going, there's not a lot that I'm seeing that is actionable.
Hmm.
And it's really starting to piss me off.
Mm.
And
What were you seeing?
I was seeing, I would just see different tests, and I found some other good ones. Like I like oat tests. I like stool tests. I like there's a lot of them that are good, but there were plenty that weren't actionable. And I remember thinking, this is a real problem. But what I did find, what I was seeing that was really actionable, it seemed like, was this hair analysis. In part because, and this is really key, I was lucky enough to find a great consultation.
Mm-hmm.
So I really have just fascinated with this person. I'm like, wow, he knew so much, and has since retired and everything. But I learned a lot from him in the years that followed about how to connect dots and just all sorts of things. So
When you say
yeah.
actionable, can you unpack that a little bit more for those listening who aren't connecting to that?
Yeah, sure. So imagine that you look at test results and you're looking at them with a practitioner, and they either give you recommendations and you're like, I'm already doing that, or you look at the test results and decide like, wow, there's not much I can take action on. How it's going? Could I say that? There's just either or when you do take action on it, you don't seem to move the needle. You seem to like maybe 10% increase type thing. And that was the type of thing I would get from like herbs and Ayurveda. I learned a lot about Ayurveda in that time. And because I was being driven not just by me, but by her. And at that point in my life, I was more concerned
by your mom.
Yeah, by my mom, by losing her, my dad, than dying myself. I mean, it was a huge, imperative driving force. So what I got really clear on in school at one point was that nanotechnology was going to be the future of everything. And I still believe that. And we're really starting to see that be more and more true.
Yeah.
In some ways that I wish weren't.
Shit's going down.
Yeah, shit's going down for sure.
Yeah.
And there's like 15 different things I could say, but I'll stay on track and say that that I knew that that'd be the future of medicine, and that it should be the future of nutrition as well, and that if we got it right for nutrition, we probably wouldn't need the medication. And and I remember thinking, this just seems like, and knowing all the things that I know at the time, it seems like a self-evident truth. Just connecting all the dots of like from ground up sort of thinking. And so when I said that those results were actionable and all these bells were going off, one of the things that I really clicked with was, oh man, I'm not, and she isn't, and my girlfriend isn't, and her dad isn't, really absorbing what we're taking, it seems like. Because I had already become sort of like an unofficial nutritionist by that age. And, I'd been supplementing for over a decade by the time I was 23. So
this is important because I mean, a lot of people take supplements and they're just peeing them out half the
Mhm.
time and maybe not even aware they're doing so. So can you talk more or just define absorption a little bit more? And then I'm sure we're going to get into bioavailability and
Mhm.
all that.
Yeah. So yeah, peeing it out is one way. You'll see your urine change. I remember making weight for wrestling, and you go in, you make sure you're hydrated. If you took a bunch of vitamins, like pee might be green or something,
Right.
like bright green, like fluorescent.
Yeah.
Chartreuse. And you're like,
Yeah.
really shouldn't be. There's clearly things in here that shouldn't be in here, and I'm clearly not absorbing something.
I read, as an aside, that you should be able to see through your pee enough to like read a newspaper through it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that true?
Yeah, I'd say like golden straw color is it's a great color to go for. Great color palette.
Because you can be overhydrated too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And I definitely did that, and that was part of what caused so many nutrient deficiencies. Is that I would just drink water and
Too
water
much
and
water.
water. Yeah, and when you're pushing yourself to exhaustion on the daily, wrestling until your vision blurs, which is something that didn't really happen very often in something like football, because you get these big breaks in between plays. Your vision would blur, though. At the end of the practice, like doing king of mat stuff.
Yeah.
So you're just going until, even if you're the best on the team, you get beat because you've just given it all
Depleted.
out. So
Sweating out all your minerals.
Yeah, like 8 pounds of water weight to practice is not uncommon.
Wow.
So insane for sure. The hardest I think I've ever worked outside of chemical engineering, and now in business now. But certainly physically, and that caused a lot of gaps, things that had to be replenished. And that's really what we do for people today. But how we got there is, I realized through this testing, just like checking your pee, that when you look at the numbers and the numbers haven't moved and your symptoms haven't either,
Right.
you start to really correlate some things. And when 3 months goes by, 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, a year and a half, 18 months goes by, all these different intervals in your testing every 3 months, is why I mentioned those, is you start to go, wow, it's not just me and it's not just these brands. I've tried a lot of different quality brands, and it doesn't seem to be about quality. It seems to be another word that people don't think of or understand quite as well, which is absorbability or usefulness. Are you utilizing it? Which is actually, not to split hairs, but utilizing and absorbing are two different things. So, for example, you can absorb your magnesium, but if you may not utilize it. And that's true for every mineral out there, but there's certain cofactors that play different roles in things. And what I realized was that I needed to work on this. So at like 3 a.m. one night, I woke up. I was here in Austin, and I just kind of knew, like, oh yeah, this is the thing, and this is how. I'd been researching and studying, how do we make this work better? Because clearly it would be something that I would need for the rest of my life. If that's true, then in my mid-20s, and a lot of other people need it, if then that's true, then it would be a worthwhile problem to solve. It would be a sustainable business. It would just check to all the boxes of like, oh yeah, this is good life work material, at least for a season or a chapter, and could lead to some interesting places. So I was like, okay, I didn't know Hero's Journey and Joseph Campbell stuff then, but
that was you accepting the call. Yeah.
So that was the start, and then I got really clear on it. I had been studying. I was like, oh, it's simple. It's just like make its particle size. You gotta make it smaller. Driving force. A lot of like things from chemical engineering, like all clicked. I was like, ooh, the lattice works that had been built throughout the years was like, oh yeah.
So you're saying everything was divinely aligning for you to just be able to connect the dots to bring this vision through.
Mhm.
That's pretty magical how that happens, isn't it?
Yeah.
So when you say making it smaller,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Like on a molecular level?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I realized there's a couple different things that are in play. It had to be stable as well. So, yeah, um, so that's really what the next 12 years until now have looked like.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
And so now, and for those listening, we didn't officially name this, but we're talking about your company, Upgraded Formulas. So now you have this company,
Yeah.
you have a line of different minerals. Will you talk about what you've developed over the years? A lot of them are liquid, right?
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
why
All
why
liquid.
you made that choice?
Yeah. Well, I I think part of it was growing up and being around different people that complained about really like n equals like five. People that complained about not taking their supplements or even their medication because they had to swallow pills and
Mm,
they like couldn't do it.
mm. I'm like
Um,
that too. They make me really like my digestion is so sensitive that
mhm,
taking a big, you know,
yeah.
pill of anything is just really difficult.
Hmm. Yeah, that's part of it. Also, the obvious part of having to digest something that you don't have to digest to get something that you need.
Right. The
Hence,
extra work to
yeah,
break something down.
even if it's just a capsule. So
Mm-hmm.
even if like our processes where we've applied nanotechnology to like the end of a traditional process and got our minerals in such a state that they can be absorbed really easily. You know, you, if you put that in a capsule, which I've done with one product, but all of our products are liquid.
Mm-hmm.
And then we have a capsule version too for our magnesium,
Mm-hmm.
both liquid and capsule. So the you still have to absorb it. Sometimes I'll take it out of the capsule and put it straight in the drink, but
Mm-hmm.
sometimes people also don't care about swallowing pills and they just want no taste and they want it to be as fast as possible
Right.
and just trying to make both camps happy.
So as a general rule of thumb, is it fair to say that liquid is always more absorbable and bioavailable than taking a capsule of something, even when we're talking about, herbs and all of
Hmm.
that? It's just easier for our bodies to work with it in that form.
If they're the same absorption technology,
Yeah.
yeah, for
Okay.
sure. Yeah.
Cool.
So if one is like water and ethanol, so dual extracted, and then you know reconstituted and put it into a capsule. Yeah, you still don't. Some people have such low stomach acid; they
Hmm.
struggle to break things down,
Right.
and you want to give them as much support in that as possible. So there's
Yeah.
that, and I felt like the stability was easier to nail with a liquid, and yeah, there's a lot of things from a manufacturing standpoint were easier.
So you mentioned the magnesium,
Mm. And more reliable too.
and
Yeah.
you have a lot of other minerals as well,
Mm.
but I've heard basically everyone in the population is magnesium deficient. Is that true?
Yeah, virtually yes. And at some point in a month, I believe everyone is. Um,
Did you say in a month? Oh,
and it,
sometime throughout the month.
yeah, throughout a month, in a month's time. So in other words, there's daily deficiencies,
Got it.
right? And then a woman going through her cycle, different things
Yes.
like that. A guy pushing really hard, doing something that he's doing, or man or woman, training really, really hard.
Yeah.
Just having a workout where you're sore for days and days,
So I have a couple questions popping up from this. One is,
or a journey, plant medicine,
right,
something extreme.
right. So what are for those who may be not super familiar with magnesium or magnesium deficiency, what are some of the most common symptoms of what it might look like if we're chronically magnesium deficient?
Yeah, you'll be stressed, most
Mhm.
likely.
Mhm.
You'll be constipated.
Mhm.
Your skin won't clear as easily because you're reabsorbing all the toxins because you're probably constipated, so you're
Mhm.
reabsorbing. Um, Yeah,
muscle tension,
muscle
cramping,
tension,
jaw,
cramping, jaw,
headaches, right?
headaches, migraines even. Yeah. People think of cramps, but if you get like leg cramps here, foot cramps, they think of that as being potassium. It's really magnesium because magnesium helps the muscles relax. It's the
Right.
relaxing effect. If you have a heart attack, you're rushed in, they put intravenous magnesium in to let the heart relax.
Yeah.
You know?
So the next natural question is, how is it that so many of us are magnesium deficient? Why would that be? What is going on here in the natural order of things that this is such a big problem area?
Yeah, and I thought this problem wouldn't be as much of a universal problem as quickly as it has been. But the soil being so depleted
Yes.
is such a thing. I mean, in the last 60 years, we've lost something like 40% of our nutrients.
Say that again.
The last 60 years, we've lost around 40% of the nutrients in our topsoil.
This is alarming and astonishing.
Mm-hmm.
And this is rapidly declining.
Yeah.
So that means that our food is 40% less nutrient than it was before.
Yep.
So unless we're eating 40% more food or whatever, we're just nutritionally way depleted in contrast to previous generations, is what you're telling me.
And this makes such a powerful difference when women give birth because they pass those deficiencies on to the child.
So we're not only experiencing this as a result of our environment, we're genetically now perpetuating this through our DNA.
Yeah.
This sounds like a big problem, Barton Scott.
It really does, Kelly Rose. It really does. Oh my God. It's a huge, huge problem and we have to solve it. And the only way we can do it really generationally is by giving birth to innovators. And the only way we give birth to innovators is in great number is if we don't give birth to children who have nutrient deficiencies. And what I realized through all my research is the most important area of that is not vitamins, but it's minerals. Because minerals activate all the enzyme pathways in the body and get our bodies to really run and work. And take just iodine, for example. So in the case of magnesium, 80% of people are deficient, just kind of like day in, day out. And I really believe nearly all, as you're saying, at some point in a given month are deficient. So that means some of the things, up to 800 that we now know, 800 things in the body don't work well, at least some of the time, for everyone, it seems like. With iodine, something like 6,000 people were studied, and 96, some were taking iodine as a supplement or eating foods to supplement, and 96% out of the 6,000 were deficient. The interesting thing as it ties to children is when a woman gives birth to a child and she herself has an iodine deficiency, child will have as much as a 20-point lower IQ.
Wow. That's significant.
Yeah. So the difference between 120 and 140 is, or 130 and 150 is, or whatever it is a difference between giving birth to innovators in mass that can help us steer out of like imagine if we had 10 more world-changing people,
right,
that were like able to create truly magnificent, awe-inspiring, huge levels of change.
Right.
Just 10 more.
Right.
Like, or just 1,000 more.
Right.
Or 10,000 more. At the point of 10,000, you start to become very confident the world could change pretty quickly.
Right. So we need to get those minerals in our bodies.
We really do.
And we need to fix the soil problem.
We need to fix the soil. That's one of the changes that we have to innovate around and solve.
Yeah.
Right? So we need a lot of people that are really, really smart, innovating at the level that Elon is innovating in, space travel here on this planet, making this planet really good. Because what I'll propose to people is that we don't really have a chance of surviving on Mars if we can't make our planet, that's already incredibly hospitable compared to Mars, more hospitable, or
Yeah.
back to the way it was. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's a great training ground.
Here we are just trying to leave all the problems behind and fly to a different planet.
Yeah.
Yeah, that seems like a very human thing to do right now.
Yeah.
But I'm with you. I prefer to be here now with what we've created and see how we can affect positive change. So curious about the soil. My inkling is that this started to get progressively worse with the introduction of chemicals and pesticides. Would that be an accurate intuition on that?
Yeah, certainly. Just agriculture being done in mass where you're continually planting the same crop. Imagine one area of land, like in your hometown where you grew up, that you know well, and that whole area has one crop and it has one crop for 30 years. That happens in places. And the things, we eat, I'm sure a lot of people, as you're watching this or listening to this, if I say, all right, name a food high in potassium, you'll go banana. That's one example of one food. And there are other foods that have potassium. And what if the soil doesn't have much potassium in it because bananas have been planted every year there?
Right.
Yeah, that becomes a problem.
Right.
And that's true for all the foods. And that's true for the animals. So a steak has roughly half the nutrition it had 80 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah. So
this is terrifying.
I know.
This is really humbling.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was talking to my friend Sarah Holly the other day, and we were really interested in this conversation. And she was talking about, if you think about it, at first when these chemicals and these pesticides came out, they weren't being used before. So the major problem was all these pests that were eating the crop. And then at first, this seems like an absolute miracle. Look, no pests. Okay, we have way more crop. And then year after year after year, we're deteriorating the quality of the soil.
And our oceans.
And
because
our oceans.
The runoff, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's the whole DDT thing. It's crazy. It's crazy when you go down this rabbit hole. So
yeah, I don't mean to bog people down in sharing this, but it's how it connects, though.
yeah, and I think there's a way to present these topics without them feeling heavy. It's just we need to know these things. We need to turn towards some of these shadows and be able to hold them in our awareness and in our caring first in order to be able to affect change. So yes, if you're with us and you're feeling a little uncomfortable about this news, we're with you, and it's still important that we're all here.
Right. Something that was said to me over the weekend that I really, really loved is that, and so inspiring, is that we're all here right now. You are here right now. You're here right now. I'm here right now. We're all here right now because we're meant to be here right now, to play a role in helping.
Yeah, the cosmic game, for sure.
Right now part, though, is just so timely with everything that's going on in the world.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't a mistake that we're here. We're learning every day, even when it's uncomfortable. You gifted me a bottle of your liquid magnesium. I took it with me to Mexico to Joe Dispenza.
Yay.
I was using it every day in my water. Good. I felt amazing.
Good.
I felt amazing. I started to feel a lot more mentally alert. And, I don't know if you know this about my history. I think I might have told it to you, but I was diagnosed with Lyme's disease in 2018, and I had a big healing journey with that. Went on the antibiotics. I kind of regret it because at the time it destroyed my gut lining, but I was scared. I didn't want things to root deeper. And so that was the choice I made at the time. And then I also did a lot of Chinese herbs. I did intense, rigorous sauna protocols for a while. And my hormones were completely out of whack. I stopped getting a menstrual period in my late 20s for like 2.5 years. So you can imagine how that threw everything off. I was so exhausted, I could barely get out of bed. And the brain fog was a really difficult thing. And what happens when you have brain fog? You feel like you don't have the energy to do anything. And then what happens there? You barely can get out of bed. You start to get depressed. You don't really want to live anymore. And it's just this really dangerous cascade that happens. And it took a lot to carve me out of that. But flash forward to now, I've made just so many radical changes, and I'm very much in tune with my body and my diet. I eat very intuitively. I change it all the time based on what I'm feeling is needed. And I definitely noticed the difference of a week of taking the magnesium every single day. So I got to get myself some more of that because I'm feeling really great. And I'm grateful to you for that. That was a really beautiful, beautiful experience. You also gave me a hair testing kit, which you offer these on your website, which I think is just upgradedformulas.com. So 2 days ago, my friend gave me a haircut. We saved a bunch of the hair and I'm going to send that off. And I'm excited to see the results of that when it comes back. That's really cool that you offer that. You're not just trying to sell people supplements they don't need. You have this process for testing. Isn't that one of your like slogans or something?
Yeah, test, don't guess. We actually
guess.
own that trademark in a bunch of countries.
Cool.
Yeah, I know. Like, there's a few people that use it, but I'm not ever gonna stop them from using it. I think it's just something that we wanted to make clear that we care about for people, because we do care more about ultimately empowering people in their health. My goal is to change healthcare and improve it to what healthcare could be. And one of the key components, since we just went through how important minerals really are, is testing for those, because it is an elemental atmosphere and world and planet that we're here on. And to the extent that we ignore that we ourselves are made of those building blocks, then we do so at our own peril, really. So, so having that map is a lot like in the days before Google Maps, how you would drive across the country, and you needed a map. Otherwise, if you just looked at it once, and you needed to look at it periodically.
Right.
So otherwise, you'd just go in a circle or a loop or something.
So what's the process for the testing? I have my hair. We put it in the little baggie that you guys give me, put it in the envelope, fill out a little questionnaire, send it off. What's the process? How long does it take? What gets done to the hair? And then how are the results interpreted?
Yeah, so the way it works, and we have instructions, so people don't have to fully memorize this or anything, but we every part of the kit's very thoughtful, and like we use paper so the hair doesn't stick and things like that. And then it goes off. There's a return envelope as long as you're in the US. There's a return mailer as well, but we ship all around the world. And so once you send it off, you get your results via email. And then if you bought a consultation, then you do a consultation call with one of our nutritionists.
Awesome.
And they give you a map, which is similar to that conversation that I told you that really broke open this new paradigm for me that I'm so thankful for. And had I done a test and not done that consultation with him years and years ago, I wouldn't have had the ahas, the epiphanies that I want people to have. So technically we offered the test by itself too, but that's just not the way to do it. You want a consultation, you want a clear map, and it's really affordably priced compared to other health tests out there.
Well, and speaking of that, you were so gracious to offer our listeners a discount, which we'll definitely put in the show notes and mention it there. But the code's going to be Thought Room, and it's a percentage off. What did you say?
15%.
15% off. And that includes any of the products, right? Any of the minerals, and also the testing kits. And would that include the consultations as well? Beautiful.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Everything. Yeah, everything on the first purchase. So, stock up, because Yeah, the magnesium is something, like, I'm about to leave for Brazil soon, and I would not travel without it anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
I would literally fly home if I needed to.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's a very strong stance.
Yeah. Yeah. I have one of those constitutions, I think, where I burn through certain minerals. Like, I have a lot of stamina. I can, like I said, work a whole day and then start the dance party in the evening if my nutrition's really on point. But I think that is the way for a lot of people. I know in human design, I'm a generator, so I'm meant to be constantly in
Me
motion
too.
as long as, yeah, there you go. So
Yeah.
makes sense.
Yeah.
So it's, like, I'm meant to be in motion and doing things and taking action and stuff. So, um, so everyone has a different bandwidth, and we would all be at a higher level, and we all. It's really my hope is that we're all the tide really does rise all boats, so that
Mm.
we can have better output. And what I love and what I said to my team this morning, actually in our team call, is, look, we just reminding them, hey, and we have such a great team. I'm so lucky. But I said, guys, as we welcome this new team member, I want to make it really clear and just reinforce it that we're here in the business of replenishing people, so that
I love that. The
yeah,
business of replenishing people. Hey, you and I are in the same business.
yes,
Just looks a little different.
yes, exactly,
I love that.
yeah. And that's why we're here today, like having this conversation, replenishing people and ourselves in the process, and it's really
Yeah.
beautiful, because to the extent that we replenish people and they feel renewed and reinvigorated, then they can. I firmly believe that when you're healthier, you're more likely you're going to be happier.
Yes.
And the reverse case is what you shared about, feeling depressed after Lyme disease, not getting out of bed, the just negative cycle and loop that creates. So,
Yeah. And when people are happier, they want to give.
mhm.
And when they give their magic, everyone's respective magic, everyone wins. So just think of if we have more and more and more people on the planet living their dream, offering what their respective gift is, feeling replenished, we can break away from this paradigm that power is finite, resources are finite. We need to steal from each other. We need to invade other countries. We need to take. I mean, these are the seedlings for that reality. And I welcome that, and I invite everybody listening to prioritize themselves. I really believe that taking care of ourselves is not selfish. That can't be said enough. We need to
Amen.
we need to hop over the hurdle of that preconditioned, societally conditioned notion that that's selfish to prioritize ourselves first, and throw that in the trash, because once you are a healthy, vital being with sacred boundaries, with, just like a glowing organ system and balanced energy centers, you can do anything that you want. You really, really can. And I know that you and I have both experienced this firsthand in our lives. Not perfect. I've fallen in and out of it, but I've done it enough to know that this is the way forward. This is the way that we're going to change the world.
Yeah. Yeah. Optimizing ourselves, healing ourselves, improving every interaction by having more energy and therefore more grace, more bandwidth, really.
Yeah.
So that you're not running on this high wire. The example you could give is, I've never given this example, but it just came to me. Imagine you're running to be on time for this meeting. That doesn't feel good.
Right.
But imagine you show up and you're 10 minutes early. Like, that feels good. Your nervous system relaxes.
Yes.
You start to have more creative thinking. Imagine, and the other person gets there 5 minutes early too or something. And you're like, oh, yeah, look at this. Now the whole conversation doesn't feel like it needs to happen faster than it can.
Yeah.
Or the whole interaction.
Right.
Or the whole learning or the whatever it is.
Ripple effects.
They're
That
just
creates
like,
big ripple effects.
yeah.
I mean, I notice that when I'm in a state of stress, how I interact with my team, and I'll walk away from the interaction going, oh, that's not how I wanted to show up as a conscious leader today. I was not responsible with my energy. Okay, how am I going to do that differently?
Mm-hmm.
And stress, I mean, stress will distort your entire reality. And I really found, again, when I was taking the magnesium, mind you, I was on a meditation retreat. That wasn't easy. It was actually
super intense.
It was very challenging. Physically, I was deeply uncomfortable for the first 3 days, mentally really struggling in a lot of ways until I broke through. But taking the magnesium, I did notice was helping with my stress, and me in particular. I hold a lot of that tension in my jaw. A lot of us do that. We'll just clench our jaws, and then it creates all this residual stress in, the occipital region, the neck, the traps, the shoulders. Our posture starts shifting because all these muscles are acting like tightened rubber bands, and all of a sudden we're grouchy and we don't know what's going on. And now we need to get a massage or go see a chiropractor. And we start habitually holding all these patterns, and it's all connected. Our systems are all connected.
Yeah, absolutely. Might be helpful on that note to tell people that, and yeah, by the way, that for anyone that's not familiar, what Hallie did is one of the most difficult meditation retreats out there. So I'm glad that you had some help, some support there. And really, it might be helpful to explain this too. Really, none of our products or the form really doesn't matter much because it goes through our process, so that the particle size is changed. It's everything's stable, and I don't want to like belabor the science part of it, but if you're nodding, you're like, yeah, I take fill in the blank mineral, whatever we're talking about, selenium, manganese, magnesium, phosphorus, etc. Just know that there's a huge difference, and that form really doesn't matter. So you'll look at ours and it'll say magnesium from magnesium chloride or with magnesium chloride. It's not the same as what you would think of when you think of a regular magnesium chloride. We're binding it with chloride because the body needs chloride to make stomach acid. Like HCl is chloride and negative charged.
Right.
So,
and that's good for digestion, right?
Yeah,
HCl.
Because again, absorption, right? It's not the food that you eat. It's how much nutrition do you get out of your food when you eat it.
Right.
And if we can improve that step, and that can help us think better, then in the same way that like monkeys fasten tools out of something, we can then turn back to our soil and start doing better things. And we are doing that better and better, more and more. I'm hearing more of those conversations. But yeah, we can't have a bunch of brain fog people trying to run around and solve solutions, is what is incredibly evident to me.
Yes.
Because we'll all be tired getting into wrecks and not achieving our goals and struggling in relationships and every aspect of health and life.
Yeah.
And it really does like chunk up all the way that high and that low, because it's elemental, and so are we. And so it's not the only thing you need, but it's something that everyone needs. And when we talk about it, you were talking about how it connected, and for some reason it tripped off this wire of, think about the endocrine system. Like, think about just how having too much of something, like too much calcium, can cause your thyroid to not work well and hormones to not be received well in the body. And how that, it's not just about low levels of things when we look at a hair test. So it's the reason why we have a whole course, by the way, for if you're a practitioner or a health coach, etc., and you want to become confident in understanding this, we have a course for that. And
that can be found on your website as well. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's another option. We've had MDs go through that, NDs go through that. So MDs, NDs, nutritionists, health coaches, and
so high levels of things.
Yeah. And then we've also had people that are just really interested in their own health and want some sovereignty there, which I was always that way before I became a nutritionist as well. And, just wanting to be able to order a lab, understand it yourself, and essentially prescribe yourself is something I want for people.
Yeah.
If they feel comfortable and qualified in it, Otherwise, seek a professional and trust their advice, someone's advice you can trust. So, plenty of different options, but thyroid function is something we look at there. And the iodine that we mentioned, earlier, and how so many people are deficient in it, we see a plethora of people that have low thyroid function too.
Mm-hmm.
And hypothyroidism sounds like this really scary thing. And really, classic hypothyroidism is iodine deficiency.
I dealt with that along with Lyme's disease, and they wanted me to go on thyroid medication as well. I know it's super common, especially for women.
Yeah, and I think it's super common for men too, and men just don't go to a doctor enough.
Interesting.
So I self-induced hypothyroidism from wrestling, and I think we all self-induce it by not eating enough iodine and not testing our levels, and not looking at the whole picture and really granularly. So I've improved thyroid function, cold sensitivity, like being able to do ice baths like much more easily. I couldn't even, like years ago when I first moved to Austin, I couldn't get in the springs, without, and now I can be in for quite literally an hour.
Wow.
And the biggest difference probably was iodine in that. So ours appears to be a high dose, but we just don't take, I know I'm spending a lot of time talking about iodine, but it's so important.
It's okay to love it.
Yeah, I love it.
It's okay to love your iodine.
Yeah, it's so important. It's so important because, in the whole idea of having innovators innovate and creators create and artists inspire us, and it's all creation, right? And we need a thyroid that is continually pumping out quality hormones, and we need those hormones to be received and interpreted in the body. And this test itself is about hormones too. We look at progesterone, testosterone, and estrogen through ratios of different elements. Yeah, we look at, there's a lot. Viral and bacterial susceptibility. So, all during the past couple of years, it's been a valuable tool for some people if they're concerned about one or both of those. Because you can give yourself a bacterial infection or become more susceptible to one, or become more susceptible to a viral infection just by having ratios that are out of balance.
I'm curious about not so much mineral deficiencies, but having too much of something. How does that happen? Where would that come from in a classic example?
It happens a couple of different ways. So we also test for heavy metals. Heavy metals can interfere with the absorption of certain nutrients. They can also cause like the usage of things. So iodine can get used up if the body encounters a lot of mercury.
Right.
Because iodine's trying to protect.
Eating too much fish.
Yeah. Munching on the tuna and stuff.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
Or, too much aluminum from like so
aluminum
many people.
Foil or
So many people we see have aluminum toxicity at some point.
Wow.
As you get healthier, sometimes your heavy metals will come out more and more because your body goes, oh, it's safe now. To
people who had fillings in their cavities with remember how they used to do metal caps?
Yep. A lot of mercury in the mouth.
Get those removed.
Yeah. If you're listening to this and that's you and you're putting your hand out, check out biological dentists, because those are the dentists that know how to take this out easily. So that's really important.
This is a really random aside, but you might not know anything about this, but I'm even thinking about women with copper IUDs. Like how that affects the body, having copper inside of you all year long,
right?
All the time.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I've been asked this by Dr. Sean Tasson, who we work with, and we're actually trying to find an answer to definitively that, because he's using our testing. He's written a book. He's a hormone specialist for women. He's here in town, and actually our hair test video on YouTube on how to actually, and it's on our website on how to take a hair test, is like me in his office with him and a
Cool.
couple of his nurses, and we're taking hair samples and showing people how to do it. And anyway, he asked that same question, and I said, I don't know for certain, except that as it relates to that, but what I can tell you for sure is that when you have too much copper,
Mm-hmm.
which assumedly if the IUD is in the body, there's some copper and it's working, there's some copper being absorbed.
It's true.
So what does that mean? Well, what I can tell you that too much copper means is just as important as too little copper. So too much copper means overly creative in a way that is, it's a feminine element in the way that it's creativity. Zinc is very masculine on the balancing side.
Cool.
Yeah.
I've never talked about this with anyone, like the masculine and feminine energetics of different minerals.
Yeah, this is how, I'm working on a book right now, and it's based on a lot of this and how nutrition becomes personality.
Huh. Ooh, I like it.
Mm-hmm. So I can take a really masculine woman, and through nutrition, we can start to balance her, and she'll have a more balanced personality, and a really feminine man. And just naturally, they might go, "Oh, I've been this way my whole life." And the fact is you've had a similar nutrition pattern for a long time that you haven't, tested, and may not be optimal for you.
I mean, this is radical. This is cool. This is like, if you feel like you have a problem and there hasn't felt like hope, this feels affirming. Like, we get stuck in our personality patterns. We get stuck in our stories of this is just how things are. And this was a lot of what I worked on at Joe Dispenza, overriding some of those stories. And we do have the ability to do that. And I love what you're bringing forth here as tangible options for things that might be supportive for balancing people out. I'm really curious to see how my hair sample comes back, because I'm looking over here at my spring water dispenser, which is copper. And so if I'm drinking all my water out of this copper container, we'll see if my copper levels are high.
Yeah.
That would be interesting to see.
You can ask, and this is why I really value a consultation with someone that truly knows what they're talking about. I think people, I'll just say this part directly, is that there's something called hidden copper toxicity too, that you identify using the test and understanding probably 10 of the 60 metrics, like coordinating them. So in other words, if you're above this point in sodium, if you're below this point in copper to molybdenum, which people have never heard of, but it's a element that helps with protein utilization. So if you're eating a lot of protein and you're not digesting it fully, you might be low in molybdenum. And a quick aside too, before I forget, is with copper and the IUD thing, if your copper's high, after some point, it's ungrounded creativity. So copper itself is creativity, it's feminine. Zinc is analytical, and it's like a cleaner version of iron. Iron is like archaic masculine from a personality standpoint. So too much iron would be like anger.
Right.
Yeah.
That makes sense. And this is all, I can see how this is connected to Ayurvedic medicine and nutrition, because I'm thinking about, when we think about iron rich, a lot of people think about red meat, right? And the grounding properties of red meat and the lower energy centers as well, which are connected to anger and all of these things. So this is really fascinating. Again, just affirming my pre-existing bias that everything is all connected.
It all connects.
Perfect.
Yes. As if you've ever been around someone that smokes some weed and they're like, "Oh my God, it's all connected."
Yes.
Yeah,
no, it's never happened. I've never been around
true.
it. I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's never happened. It was like, well, you've never been around me when I've been high before then. But it's interesting how, and that's a whole nother conversation, is addiction and deficiencies.
Addiction.
and toxicities. Yeah. So marijuana and tobacco, for example, have cadmium in them, right? And cadmium gets displaced by copper. So, and the other way too. So, yeah. Anyway, it's just interesting. Like some of the foods that we lean on can have, like, it gives us, like dark chocolate will be high in copper, and by eating dark chocolate, you can temporarily get this rush if you have cadmium. And let's say you smoked a lot of weed and you have a lot of cadmium, you'll eat chocolate and it'll temporarily push out, because it's activating some of the same pathways. So it'll push out cadmium.
Wow.
And you temporarily get this like bliss feeling that's beyond what the food normally would be.
Huh.
And
so chocolate tastes extra good on weed, is what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
No.
We should call it cannabis. It's more respectful.
Yeah, sure. So, I mean, it's whatever you call it, just knowing that if you have some toxicities, you want to address them. Otherwise, they will address you. You know? Yeah, that's true.
Wow. So I want to roll it back to what you mentioned briefly in the beginning about your different experiences. You mentioned ayahuasca and MDMA, and you hinted toward that they had somehow informed this journey in some way. Would you be willing to share more deeply about that?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd be glad to, to the extent that it's helpful for people. So with Aya, I realized, after I had so many different epiphanies, just pages of notes and stuff. And
what year was that? How long ago?
That was 2015.
Okay.
Yeah. And it was like December and January, I remember. And I was already, working in this area a lot and had been for, a couple of years.
But in the mineral area.
Yeah, in the mineral area and testing and it just really hadn't taken the full leap into doing everything I needed to do. And then that led to a series of dominoes. So the next thing was investing in a course, an in-person course, to do TM, Transcendental Meditation.
Oh yeah, I've done that.
Yeah, that's only $1,000. It seemed like a lot at the time. And I went and sat with the teacher, and I set the habit and I kept doing it.
They gave you a mantra.
They gave me a mantra.
Do you still use it?
I do. I do.
Cool.
Used it this morning. And
secret mantra.
And
for those who don't know, when you get, and I don't know if you can call it initiated, but when you take your transcendental meditation course, they take you into a little private room and you get whispered a special mantra that is yours for life and only yours to repeat during your meditation.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's usually like a word.
Yeah,
a couple syllables.
And the idea is just so that it doesn't mean anything to you, so you don't attach a meaning, and you transcend by hearing it, because your mind this is going to be me teaching meditation, which is funny too. But
it's all connected, Barton.
Us teaching it. Yes, I mean, it's how we got here. So, yeah, and as you choose that thought, all the other thoughts drop out, right? So, to me, it's a lot easier than following my breath. I always tell people, if you haven't found a meditation practice that works, keep trying other ones.
Yes.
Until you find one that really works for you, because what I found for me is really effortless. It feels like I always describe it as a net to fall into.
Yeah.
That's how little effort it feels like. It feels like a relief and a release, and a way to sort of cleanse. And there's a lot of different visuals I could give people on like how it feels and stuff. But
I like that, because with meditation, people can get really frustrated, especially when they're beginning. And my advice is just don't give up in the beginning, because that's just the mind affirming to you that you're always going to be stuck the way that you are. Nothing's going to work for you. And that's the addiction, right? There's an addictive emotional pattern that's happening there. And so buying into the idea that meditation is not going to work for you is really just, and I'm speaking from personal experience because I've gone through periods of this. It's just affirming our own disempowerment. So to push past that and say, no, I am going to meditate and I will continue to find, I will find something that works for me. There's no right or wrong way. Some people really love they're just able to sit on a cushion and drop immediately into an abyss, and that's great for them. And then there's other people who really like guided meditation because it's kind of like a form of hypnosis, and it slowly takes and trains you into a different brainwave state. If you're operating in high beta all the time, you're probably not one of those people who can just plop down on a cushion and suddenly relax. Your brain has to go through a series of wave state changes to actually get into theta and actually be in a place of meditation. So however you need to get there, that's totally your journey. And TM is definitely one great way, with the mantra being the anchor and just continually coming back to that. Essentially, it's a nonsense word, a couple of syllables, and you just keep repeating that, and your brain slowly starts to release and relax all of the other things that it was holding on to. So yeah, I'm glad that you brought that point up as an invitation for people to keep seeking something that will really work with their own constitution.
Yeah, the word hypnosis, that really is what it is. You're self hypnotizing yourself instead of a mantra. And there's been guided meditations that I've liked. Don't get me wrong, I've liked some aspects of all of these things.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing that I find is the easiest when I'm really, really tired and I disconnected from my breath even, is just hearing the sound in my mind. And I get this like deeply hypnotic vision that I've had for years, where I'm drifting down to the bottom of the swimming pool. I just came up with this. Imagine it's like to me, Sunday evenings are this like relaxed sort of reflective time, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think they are for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
And imagine it's like sun setting, you're out, really nice pool somewhere, and you're at the deep end of the pool and you let a breath out.
Mm-hmm.
And you start to transcend by saying this mantra, and you go down, down, down. If you ever stopped and watched a leaf fall to the ground,
mm-hmm.
or if you learn to snowboard and they say leaf down the mountain at first,
Mm-hmm.
That's really what you're doing. You let a breath out. In this case, if you're in this scene, you're in the deep end of the swimming pool, and you let a breath out, and then you're saying the mantra, and before you know it, you wind up and you're sitting at the bottom of the swimming pool, and maybe you're sitting cross-legged, maybe you're not, but you look up and all the problems and concerns are out there, and you can still see them maybe, but they're kind of out of focus, and they're not really close in your mind's eye anymore. And you're in this place where this liminal state where you're like able to solve problems in the way that you would give advice to someone else and go, oh, that's obvious.
Right.
It's so obvious. Just do this.
Right.
And you're like, oh God, it's so relieving, and it's so easy, and it doesn't have to be hard. And what would this look like if it were easy? And all these things clicking together. So I was doing this, and this is where MDMA comes in. This is juicy. So the first time I did Aya, it was hard.
Yeah.
It was really hard and brutal, and one of the tougher nights that I had. And I will say too, I feel like people can just, if you're lucky enough to find a place in the US, like, don't just think that the only way to do this well is having to go all the way to the jungle. I know for a fact you don't have to get incredible results. And this whole story is proof of that, really, now that I think about it. Right. So the MDMA story is really interesting though, and it pairs with this meditation thing, because about 60 days in, they said, do it every day, twice a day for 90 days.
The transcendental meditation.
Right. Yeah. And
not MDMA.
No.
Just wanting to clarify
I'm
that.
glad you clarified that.
Yeah.
Yes. Good move.
So meditate every
Yeah.
day for 60 days
Yeah.
without missing a day.
Or I think they said 90.
90
and,
days.
And I was somewhere around day 60 or so. And I
Uh-huh.
was, or maybe a little further in. And I remember actually it was like, I wish I knew exactly what day it is. I probably have it in a journal somewhere. Because it was like almost 6 years to the day or so. And I had already started working on upgraded formulas like several years before that. But like I needed to make the real leap and traction and stuff. And a lot of it became super, super clear. All of life became really clear too, because I was meditating. I wanted to go out. I was back here in Austin, and we were going to go out. Me and a friend of mine go dancing. It was like a Sunday evening again, and but I was in like vacation mindset, and so like Sunday was any day of the week then, and we were going to go to Barbarella's, and he didn't really care about going. He was just going to go to, humor me, and I had like gotten into salsa, and ever since I just like loved dancing of all sorts. And so I was like, all right, let's go. It's been a while, I want to go get this in. And I'd never taken a large dose of MDMA before. That was really clean and pure and stuff.
What's a large dose?
It was like a 0.18. It was a large dose, yeah. Really clean, pure stuff, and 0.2, something like that. And so it kicks in, and I had told them, I was like, hey, hold on, before we walk out the door, I just want to sit down and get my evening meditation in. And I sit down, and probably 15 minutes or 10 minutes in, halfway through, I'm like nodding. I'm starting to feel like this surge come up, like blood pressure's coming up. I'm smiling. I'm happy, and got palms are starting to sweat. And I'm like eyes closed, just in the living room, lights are off, and I'm just meditating on the couch. He's like, all right, I'm going to go back in the room. And, he had said like, so he had like gone back and gave me some space. All right. So I was like, I'll let you know when I'm done. And he probably pokes his head out 30 minutes later, and he's like, man, are you okay? And I'm like, I'm so good. And he's like, oh, I guess we're going dancing, huh? And I was like, I'm really...
We're not going anywhere.
Yeah,
I'm in samadhi.
Yeah.
Pretty much?
Yeah.
You were there?
Yeah.
That had to be pretty beautiful.
Yeah. And for the next 4 hours, I was there.
Just meditating.
Just meditating, and never left that position, really.
Wow. Just like energy,
Yeah.
just blooming through your entire beingness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And clarity, and just forgiveness and acceptance and vision.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I had to close some doors in my mind and in my life, in my heart, so that others could open and I could appropriately channel and utilize the energy that's coming to me and through me, in a way that really was aligned for me. So,
just like the minerals.
Yeah.
You had to absorb it and be able to use it.
Yes. And the absorption was incredibly high this particular evening, because I like everything.
You were sitting with it.
So, sitting within the next 18 months, really came to fruition exactly as I saw it in my mind. And then
imagine
I
if
just
you had
expect that
gone
now.
salsa dancing instead. Nothing wrong with that either. Like, not judging recreational use of things on occasion, but it's so cool that you decided to just love up on yourself and be with yourself and not need to go chasing an experience. And what you got was this really potent future casting.
Yeah. Like Joe Dispenza would talk about, manifesting your future. And this came to me in a meditation, and then I later read it in a book of his, and I was like, oh, okay, we were right on track.
Yeah.
And that was this equation. There's a really simple equation that came to me, and it all came through a TM meditation. It was the physics of miracles. And I realized that the physics of miracles, what we call miracles first, we have to define that, is a compression of time and space.
Yep.
So that if something amazing happens to you, and it happens in a relatively long amount of time, then that's a goal being achieved.
Right. It's
If
not a miracle.
Yeah. If it happens really quickly, then it's a compression of time and space, is what I realized. I had never thought about what is the definition of miracle? I never thought about that. But with that definition, you can create this equation, which is that when you, with compressed time and space, so the physics of miracles is compression of time and space. And to the extent that you compress time and space, you get into this place where, God, it's been a while, but let me recall it.
I'm fascinated by this.
Yeah. It's really, really cool. It's compressing time and space. Wow. Let me think about this. All right. So
collapsing, you're becoming, Dr. Joe would say, less particle and more wave.
Yeah.
And instead of moving, you're having to move your body through the third dimensional reality in space and time and haul your body using your free will to go attain the thing, calling up the empowered emotion within the body to feel what you want to feel in whatever your idyllic future is, calling it up within your emotional blueprint. I picture like we have this infinite file cabinet inside of us with every single feeling that could ever be experienced. And I'll open this file cabinet and I'll pull out an emotional blueprint. Like, it's the confidence of walking onto stage as a keynote speaker or whatever I'm wanting to draw in. And I'll entrain myself with it in the present, in the now moment. And I essentially hack the quantum field to present that event to me, collapsing space and time through feeling it now. And then it has to be reflected to me, if I've done this correctly, in the third dimensional hologram. That's my quick.
So well said. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
So good.
So in this meditative state on MDMA, it sounds like what you were doing was you were deeply anchored into these ecstatic feelings surrounding what you were doing in the world, what you wanted to be doing, and you were feeling the gratitude for those feelings now, as if everything had already come to fruition. Is that accurate to say?
That's exactly it.
Yeah.
That's exactly it. And the equation that I realized just now, it came to me again, which is, man, I love this. It's funny that I don't think about it more, is elevated clarity and elevated emotion. So when you have both of those things, so the elevated clarity was the meditation. So I was in a deep alpha theta state, right? Instead of beta. So it's beta, alpha, theta, right? And I was in this this place. So I was really clear, and I'd been doing a lot of work and front loading what I wanted and all this stuff. And so I had been seeking, I think. And then I got really clear, and I married that with elevated emotion, with this intense dose of MDMA, and
no doubt,
and no distractions.
Yeah, beautiful. Wow, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing. Yeah. Well, as we begin to draw this to a close, I'm wondering if there's anything else that's on your heart or mind in regards to your mission. I actually read somewhere that a portion of the proceeds from upgraded formulas goes toward a charity project. I was wondering maybe if you want to touch on that a little bit.
I'd love to. Yeah. And thank you for researching that. Yeah. So charity water is something that's really important to me. I get it. A lot of people have their favorite charity for different reasons. I really like them because I connected with their story big time years ago. So the businesses, Upgraded Formulas has donated to them for, since day one. I've donated to them since probably the day I heard the story from Scott. And I know at some point really soon this year, we'll look to drill a whole well with them.
So their mission is to provide clean water for everyone, right?
Yes. Yeah. Their mission is clean water, sustainable clean water. And that's what's really cool about them. I think all charities should adopt this part of their model is they show you the results that you help. And so they show you GPS coordinates of what well you help drill. If you donate your birthday or you donate $100 or even less, I think there's some threshold where they start showing you like the well you help drill. And then the other thing that's really 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 cool, really I think I doubt that they invented it, but I haven't heard anyone else really use it or explain it this well, which is they have one event. They have one event every year, and that pays. It's a big like charity event, and that event pays for all of their overhead for the rest of the year.
Beautiful.
So now you take away the two things I think that keep people from donating or donating as much, which is, and this is not a call to donate, like a portion of all your purchases at Upgraded Formulas go to charity water. Of course, it'd be awesome if you also connect with that too. There's a video on the bottom of our story page that has a great video that I think if you need a good cry, just watch that video. It's so heartwarming. It's so just affirming that we're all in this together. It's amazing, truly. And it's just fantastic. But they let you know that what you're doing counts and matters, and they're showing you, hey, here's where your money's getting allocated to, and here's what we built with it. So that combination of proof and the clarity of where the money is going is really powerful. So, and our products are water based as well, and so everything, the goodness that we deliver is in part due to our access to clean water. And I think of it as, us solving a root cause problem with delivering people replenishment, renewing them, revitalizing them. That really, really is the same when you look at root cause needs. We need oxygen, and then we need water. And those are pretty fundamental to existence and life. And like education's super important, and but everyone needs water for sure. And there's about 700 million people that still need clean water, and I'd love for that to not be a thing by the time I die, for sure, or hopefully a lot sooner. Right. And I'd love for a lot of people to join us in working on this, for sure.
Well, thank you for going beyond just talking about what a conscious business is, and actually doing something actionable with a portion of the proceeds. To me, that is the embodiment of conscious business. And I really appreciate seeing that here very much.
Thank you so much.
Yes.
For the acknowledgement. Yeah. I really like telling that story, and because it I think it paints a way. A lot of us want to help, and at some point or another, we all just need to be shown a way, or given a nudge, or said, hey, it could look like something like this. It doesn't have to be exactly like this, but something in this direction. Here's what works. And then you take that and you make your own instrument and your own music with it.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's part of what we were talking about in the beginning, of everybody sharing their magic. Your magic is in some way educating others. I believe even if you're whatever you do, artists are educating us. Everybody is bringing forth a nuance of this reality that we're sharing together, and is sprinkling that for the collective. So whatever it is that you're excited about, to bring that with all your love, and to bring that with all your joy, because we need it now more than ever. Everyone in their zone of genius, and you get to decide what your zone of genius is. Society doesn't get to tell you that. Your soul knows what your zone of genius is. And if you step into that place beyond all fear, this is how we shatter the illusions of this paradigm that we're living in that keeps us separate from each other, that keeps us unhappy, tired, chasing some proverbial carrot that can never be caught, and that just more deeply entrains us into this illusion of separation and heavy emotion. There's so much goodness here for us, and every single one of us has the power to liberate ourselves. We don't need anything outside of us. We don't need a coach. We don't need any specific religion. You don't need anything to do it. You can choose these things to assist you, to guide you on your journey, but everything we need and all the answers is right inside.
Mm. So well said. I love that. I love
Mm.
that. You just gave me this clarity moment, which is if you're doing something, back to that thought of like Vyvanse, when I thought I needed it, even
Mhm.
though they say it's not addictive, if you feel it, everything you do and everything you have in your life should feel like a choice.
Yes.
Otherwise, it's wrong, I would say. By
Yeah.
definition, it's probably like you're wrong in thinking that you have to have it.
Right.
And
There's
it's just
something
fear,
else
like you said, stepping.
influencing.
Yeah.
If you feel like you don't have a choice and you're doing it because you air quote have to, there is some thread of shame or judgment or fear that is knitted into that choice. And I think until we can get to the point of that centered place from within ourselves where we see with clarity what love would do, what would love choose, then we should wait on making a decision until we can find that place.
Yeah.
In my humble opinion.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think some of us know almost always immediately, and then some of us don't.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not a character defect, it's how we're designed,
Mm-hmm.
quite literally.
And then
It's how
some
we're
of us
designed.
know and then doubt
Mm-hmm.
ourselves because
Yeah.
the doubt is also fear.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah. And you can know and know that, hey, right now I need to take action on this thing right now. And later I'll take action on this other thing right
Yes.
now.
Yes, it's allowed to change. It's allowed to change. That's very, very important to say.
Mm-hmm.
Mm.
Wow, this is great.
Yes, Barton, thank you so much for coming. I want to ask, where can people find you online? We'll give the website again, which is upgradedformulas.com. We've given the coupon code, which is all capitals, thought room, all one word, and that'll get you 15% off of your first purchase. Anything on the website, including the products, the testing, hair testing, and the consults. And I don't know, will it apply to the course? Maybe it'll apply to the course as well.
Mm-hmm.
So this is great news. And yeah, where can people find you personally?
People can find me personally. We have a YouTube channel, Upgraded Formulas. I'll probably have my own before long as well. I know I will. And then working on a book that covers all of this. Stay tuned. Drop in on our mailing list at the very least.
Mm-hmm.
And check out our free ebook. You should have a pop-up, or you can email us. A lot of cool videos if you're just like wanting to kill spare time with your cat at home.
Sweet.
There's good stuff that Hallie and I talked about today that goes into, in some areas, just more depth. But we did a great job of covering a lot of areas. But if you're listening to this and you have questions about different things, you can kind of scroll through a catalog of videos and maybe find the answer. Or book a test, book a consult.
Mm-hmm.
You can find me on IG, Ask Barton.
Great handle.
Thank you.
Very inviting.
Yeah. Thank you. I feel like that I can't get to all my like TMs like that for sure.
Mm-hmm.
At least not every day, but at some point, yeah, I want to have a whole nother arm of education around what we do. But this is a great start for right now. I just want to continue to empower people to really just not suffer the same sort of things that I've suffered. I mean, life's hard enough anyway, but I've really figured out some of these areas for people, and through like standing on the shoulders of other people throughout the years, and that's how we do it, right? So like, go and suffer on something else that you don't have a roadmap for yet, but I promise we have a roadmap for this stuff.
Yeah, have you heard that saying? I think it's from Mark Manson's book, but it's like, choose your shit sandwich. So like, basically there's always going to be something to suffer over, if you will, in life, but you can choose what it is. And wouldn't you want to choose to, I don't want to call it suffering. I think it's more like, what do you want to be challenged by? And wouldn't you want to be challenged by being so in love with your purpose and enjoying the day to day of overcoming, whatever obstacles are in your way around what you're birthing into the world, versus sort of these more primary foundational, health pieces or nervous system being in fight or flight. Like, let's elevate everybody beyond that so we can just freely offer our gifts to the world.
Yeah, that's so
I mean,
good.
that's my plan.
I mean, it really
You guys
is,
down
right?
with that?
I'm so down with
Let's
that.
do it.
I'm so down with that because I just got this visual of a dance party starting,
Uh-huh.
and there's some people in the room that are just like on the vibe that you just described.
Yeah.
And there's some people that are on this like, I want to be there, but I don't have enough energy because you got to understand it was a long week, and like,
Right.
and like I'm going through a lot, and it's like, no, dude, imagine we were all going through the same level of thing, and I know, just as a thought experiment, and some of us had these tools and hacks, and some of us didn't. My personal sort of brand is like getting the most out of life. So like enjoying vacation, not feeling like you have to recover on vacation.
Yeah.
And enjoying your evenings, not feeling like you collapse into the couch.
Totally. And in your dance party vignette, it's like sometimes you got to be the first one to dance, and then everybody else can catch the vibe. So this is what we're trying to do. I think this is what I'm trying to do, is share my process, share my story in all of its beauty and often its vulnerable messiness, so that other people can catch the vibe and we can have a worldwide dance party.
So good. So good. I'm here for it.
Thanks for coming, Barton. It's been wonderful to have you on the show today.
It's been so much fun. Thank you.